Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. A huge shout out to the God of War and Uncharted channel members. And if you enjoyed today's video, please show your support by hitting that like button. So, one of the greatest games ever made may be about to get even better. So Red Dead Redemption 2 remains one of the most visually stunning and critically acclaimed open world games ever made, ever released onto console. Yet despite its massive success and continued popularity, one of the most puzzling aspects of the PlayStation 5 generation has been the complete lack of a detailed current gen patch for the game. While PS5 owners can still play Red Dead Redemption 2 through backward compatibility, they are limited to a 30 frames per second experience and a resolution that falls short of what the Xbox Series X currently offers. Rumours have circulated for years now that Rockstar Games had plans to develop a PS5 specific version of Red Dead Redemption 2. However, these alleged plans were reportedly put on hold as the developer shifted focus towards the highly anticipated GTA 6. Back in 2022, well-known Rockstar insider Tez2 claimed that the company had scrapped its intentions to bring both Red Dead Redemption and its sequel to modern hardware, prioritizing GTA 6 instead. But in 2023, Rockstar did release a new version of the original Red Dead Redemption. However, it was far from a substantial upgrade that fans had really hoped for. The release was more of a straightforward port rather than a true remaster or a PS5 patch, featuring only a slight resolution boost and maintaining the same 30 FPS cap. Now, fresh rumors are once again swirling, suggesting that Rockstar is actively working on a Nintendo Switch 2 version of Red Dead Redemption 2, as well as a proper current generation update for PS5 and the Xbox Series X. These rumors, reported by sources close to Rockstar and also shared by Game Reactor and Nintendo, indicate that the Switch 2 version could potentially launch by the end of this year. So they are quite far ahead if these rumors are believed to be true. However, no concrete release window has been provided for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox updates. Interestingly, these claims have surfaced just days after speculation emerged that Rockstar is also planning to port Grand Theft Auto 4 to modern consoles. If both rumors are accurate, it would imply that Rockstar has resumed development of the PlayStation 5 version of Red Dead Redemption 2, despite delaying GTA 6 to a projected release window in May 2026. One possibility that has been floated is that Video Games Deluxe, now rebranded as Rockstar Australia, after being acquired by Rockstar, may be involved in this project. Now, this studio, Rockstar Australia, was brought in to assist in fixing the terrible and problematic PS5 and PS4 GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition, which launched in, let's just say, less than optimal state. Could this studio, Rockstar Australia, now be handling the Red Dead Redemption 2 PS5 update? Only time will tell because Rockstar haven't confirmed this. This is down to Tez2, who is a known and reliable Rockstar leaker. What do you think, guys? Will Rockstar finally deliver a current gen patch for Red Dead Redemption 2, the greatest game ever made, in my opinion, and maybe a lot of other people's opinions? Or are we going to be left waiting indefinitely? It's the one thing that Red Dead needs, right? A patch for the PS5 Pro. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and let's move on. Sony may be on the verge of re-entering the handheld gaming market, and we've heard this on many occasions. Fresh rumors suggesting that a new PlayStation Portable is in the works. According to a well-known Xbox insider, Heisenberg FX4 on NeoGAF, Sony is not only developing a new handheld device, but also plans to launch it alongside the next generation PlayStation 6. While there's been no official confirmation from Sony, and we're not going to get one from Sony until they officially announce it sometime in 2026 or 2027, the leaker emphasized that the new device is a full-blown PS handheld, potentially aligning its release with the anticipated PlayStation 6 timeline. And if that's true, that's great, because we want a full-blown handheld rather than something linked to the PS5. And this isn't the first rumor about a new PlayStation handheld that's been surfaced. Last month, another leak claimed that the upcoming portable device is part of Sony's broader next-generation console strategy. According to the report, the handheld will support shader binary compatibility, enabling PS5 games to run on the device without requiring modifications from developers. In line with these rumors, speculation is also mounting regarding Sony's ongoing partnership with AMD. Both companies are reportedly collaborating on Project Amethyst, with AMD's 3D stacked chips expected to power the PlayStation 6. If the new handheld leverages similar technology, it could potentially deliver substantial performance boost over previous PlayStation portables. Yet more rumours of a PlayStation handheld. As they say, there is never any smoke without fire, and these rumours just will not go away. As I've said earlier, so long as the next handheld from Sony is a proper handheld device and not one where you have to be connected to the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 6 when it launches, then I look forward to seeing what Sony have. That's all I'm really going to say on this right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's move on to the legend Hideo Kojima, because he has spoken out about the early test reviews for his highly anticipated game, Death Stranding 2 on the beach. Speaking in an interview with Edge magazine, Kojima shared feedback for the sequel, and he said that this has been more positive than the reception to the original game. He also revealed that while he is open to constructive criticism on aspects like control systems and camera mechanics, he's not willing to compromise on the game's core themes and narrative direction, which I really do give him credit for. He stands his ground on his vision, and that's good, because his games are not for everyone, and that's okay, and that's a good thing. Kojima goes on to say, "I do listen to criticism. If the controls need tweaking, or if a camera pan is too slow or too fast, I will adjust it, but I don't alter themes or story based on feedback. I want people to play my game, but I'm not interested in making something that appeals to everybody." And Kojima also noted that during testing for the first Death Stranding game, opinions were split, with around 4 out of 10 players enjoying the game and 6 expressing dislike for the game. However, with Death Stranding 2, he claims the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Sony is pleased, of course, but I do wish I was a bit more controversial, Kojima added. The game is set for a June 26, 2025 release on the PlayStation 5. Yet very, very excited to experience Death Stranding 2. I know the vast majority of people who watch the channel and connect with the content here have also expressed that they're looking forward to the game. There's a few people that are not really, it's not their cup of tea, should we say. Not long to wait before we get to experience this game. I do feel that this game is more appealing to a niche audience. It was deliberately designed to play in a very specific way, a way that may not be very appealing for everyone. But the vibes coming from Death Stranding, especially the second game, I appreciate the first game may have not been for everybody, but I think Death Stranding 2, I think will have a wider appeal. The vibes coming out from this game, more stealth mechanics, the bigger set pieces, bigger action set pieces, and the game leans into Metal Gear Solid quite a bit in certain ways and in certain areas that has been referenced by lots of people who got to play the game for around 20 to 30 hours of the game. These are kind of media people, inside people that Kojima invited to an event, and they played nearly halfway through. So a lot of positive feedback coming through, and apparently the game is around 70 hours long, so it's not going to be a walk in the park, let's put it that way. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and let's move on. EA's upcoming Battlefield game has drawn inspiration from 2024 Civil War and Dead Space, according to Philippe Ducharme, the game's senior producer. Speaking to Inverse, Ducharme mentioned that the development team has been heavily influenced by the theme of ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, a concept explored in both Civil War and the horror franchise Dead Space. Creative director Roman Campos Oriola elaborated on the inspiration from Dead Space, noting how the tension-building techniques employed in the horror game are being adapted for the Battlefield campaign. While these two genres are vastly different, Ducharme emphasized that the pacing and emotional intensity developed in Dead Space could significantly enhance the narrative depth in the Battlefield campaign. EA has yet to announce an official release date for the new Battlefield game, but it is expected to launch by March 2026. From a personal perspective, I've always enjoyed the Battlefield campaign and the Battlefield Online games. I just prefer them over Call of Duty, so I really hope the single player campaign is good in Battlefield. I'm disappointed that 2042 didn't have a campaign, so from that perspective, pleased to see them return to a campaign mode. I just hope it's good and it delivers. Now, it just doesn't look like Sony is going to catch a break with its live service games. From the cancellation of several games midway through development, most notably The Last of Us multiplayer game, through to Concord and the closure of the studio, there is more turbulent times ahead for Sony and its plans for live service gaming. Sony has had a rough few days, facing backlash on multiple fronts. First, its live service game, Fairgame, appears to be struggling, with reports suggesting a significant delay to the game. Meanwhile, another controversy has erupted involving Bungie, which has been accused of plagiarism by an artist. So let's look at the Bungie story first. The artist took to social media platform X to allege that Bungie lifted her original poster designs from 2017 and used them in its upcoming extraction shooter Marathon. And according to the artist, her work was used without her permission and without compensation. In a statement, the artist goes on to say, the Marathon Alpha released recently and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs that I made in 2017. Bungie is not obliged to hire me, but my work was clearly good enough to be used without pay or attribution. Bungie was quick to respond to the accusations, issuing a public statement on Blue Sky, acknowledging the error and promising to rectify the situation. The Bungie statement reads, "We immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist designs in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in-game. We take matters like this very seriously and have reached out to the artist to discuss how we can make this right." Bungie added that they are conducting a full review of their in-game assets and implementing stricter checks to document all artist contributions, aiming to prevent similar issues in the future. And while the swift response is a positive step, it's another controversy that Sony certainly doesn't need right now. And we also have reports of Haven Studios, the developer behind Fairgame, is facing its own problems and turmoil. Fairgame, a competitive heist game, was initially scheduled for 2025, but has now been pushed back to 2026. The delay follows a concerning external playtest that reportedly did not go well, leaving developers very uncertain about the game's future. Raymond's departure is particularly significant given her influence and industry reputation. Before founding Haven Studios, she was instrumental in launching the Assassin's Creed series at Ubisoft and went on to establish Motive Studio at EA. She later joined Google to work on its ill-fated Stadia platform, and now she exits Haven. Many are speculating about the studio's fate, especially in light of Sony's recent decisions to scale back on live service game development. When Haven was first acquired by PlayStation in 2022, it was part of a broader push by former PlayStation boss Jim Ryan to pivot towards live service games. However, since Ryan's departure, the strategy has been re-evaluated. Two other studios focused on live service projects, Deviation Games and Firewalk Studios, have already been closed. Given the troubled development of Fairgame and Raymond's exit, it's unclear whether Haven will be able to weather the storm. PlayStation has stated that it remains committed to supporting Haven Studios, with Marie-Eve Danis and Pierre-Francis Sapinski stepping in as the new co-studio heads. Still, with Fairgame still lacking significant gameplay reveals and now facing another delay, the outlook for Haven is anything but certain. Alright guys, look, here's my take on the whole Fairgame's live service situation. First off, the game's been delayed following an external playtest, and honestly, the delay's a good thing, right? Clearly the playtest exposed some significant issues, and now the studio has a chance to address those issues. Heads have already rolled, with Jade, Raymond, the studio head, leaving the studio. That alone is a strong indicator that the game was nowhere near where it should have been, and that Sony wasn't pleased with the progress. The whole purpose of these playtests is to identify problems early so the studios can start to work them out and polish the game ahead of its release. Typically though, these tests genuinely reveal smaller issues, bugs, assets not functioning properly, frame rate drops, or other performance issues. These things that can usually be fixed in a few months, 3 to 6 months, give or take, right? Sometimes maybe a little bit longer. But that's what these playtests, the external playtests, are designed to do. Bring in external people with a fresh set of eyes, with fresh experiences, having not played this game before, and to test the game and try and break it. That's the purpose of these external playtests, and just to ensure that the game does actually flow as intended. And let's not forget, I know this was an external playtest. These games are constantly being tested internally before the external teams even get involved. That's a crucial step to keep the project on track. But in this case, it seems like the external playtest uncovered a game that was fundamentally broken or far off the mark from being completed. Sony have stepped in quickly to course correct, likely to avoid another situation like Concord. The real question is, who is overseeing the internal playtesting? Who was evaluating the progress made by the game at each of these internal tests? How did the game get to a state where the studio head has had to leave following an external playtest? If Jade was the one managing all of these processes and all these tests, then it's fair to say she's dropped the ball. Once again, this goes back to Jim Ryan's live service strategy. He pushed for too many live service games too quickly, spreading the resources thin across multiple studios and projects. Instead, Sony should have focused on just one studio and one game. Let them experiment, let them play, let them learn, and refine their approach. Whether that game succeeds or if it fails, that's not the point of this process. The goal is to build a knowledge base and master the live service model through each iteration and version and release of game. Again, the goal here isn't to have a successful game or a failed game per se. It's building that knowledge base. And of course, you want a game to be successful and make money. And if that happens with your very first live service game, then brilliant. You've achieved something which many companies fail to do. But the reality is that it is very unlikely going to happen first time round. So the goal should be to learn and develop the skill base and the knowledge base within your team to make every version better than the previous one. Bungie could have also been a valuable resource in this learning phase, given their experience with Destiny, and this studio, whichever studio would have originally been set up to deliver the live service game, could have leaned into Bungie for additional support. But instead, under Jim Ryan's strategy, Sony rushed to set up multiple live service projects simultaneously. If they'd just focused on one team, one game, and iterated over several versions, they might have had a much stronger foundation for future live service titles. And all the while, the rest of the first-party studios could have continued producing single-player, amazing narrative-driven games that Sony is well known for, like the next God of War, the next Spider-Man, the next Bloodborne game, a new Uncharted, The Last of Us, all these kind of single-player games. We could have had a lot more of those, and maybe even some new IPs. Instead, we're now looking at potentially wasted years of first-party development time. Had Sony not gone all in on live service games, we might have already been seeing new installments in those franchises. Now, I'm not saying live service is going away. Hell, it's not. It's here to stay permanently, and Sony are figuring out how to make it work. But I think under this current leadership, the live service projects are more controlled and targeted than it was ever under Jim Ryan. If Sony senses that a project isn't shaping up, they're going to pull the plug quickly or push back the project, just like they did with Fairgame. We'll still see live service projects. Like I mentioned, this is not going away, but they're very likely to be more contained and handled by very specific teams. But that's just my take. What do you think? Is Sony taking the right approach with its live service strategy right now, keeping a handful of studios contained to live service while the rest focus on single player? Or are they still fumbling the live service strategy? Let me know your thoughts, guys, down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.